Here we go, part 2, installation of the Wilson Locomotives slomo. It's me getting out the bag, and I've also done some prep work by taking off the front buffer beam here. That's the standard locomotive up, and I'm going to be removing this cover so I can get access to the grub screw on the axle. So getting the Allen key out that's provided. It's quite a fiddly job, tiny little screw. So it's ideal to do this work on somewhere that's not going to roll off and drop on the floor and disappear. So take the screw out, take the access cover off. You see the drive bands there, they do provide spare ones, and also the grub screw going down onto the axle. Well, will be the axle. They provide a nice guide rod for when you push through the axle later on through the wheels. It's all in the instructions. If you read through them, there's also the original designer of the slomo device. He has a YouTube channel, SSP Slomo. If you search that, he's fitting it to one videos to a Katie again and one's to a Billy, but always follow the instructions. Okay, there's me testing out. That's grub screws out far enough to be able to push it through. You don't want to remove that completely because you'll lose that. It's tiny. So now I can stand the locomotive up onto its chassis, onto the front. It's good with the Katie because it's flush with the smoke box, so it's quite steady on a flat surface. But you might want to, if you got a different locomotive, maybe even just screw it down to a bit of wood to keep it stable. So this is me removing the frame spacer. This needs to be removed completely for installation. I'm going to use an Allen key here just to snap it off from the paint. It's basically glued it in place, so snap that out with an Allen key in the centre hole. So that's gone. I can put the locomotive back on its wheels for a moment because I'm going to be adjusting the way bar, way shaft that goes to the drop links and the expansion links. You need to loosen them off, put it in full back gear or reverse, and then you can move the way shaft towards the front of the locomotive up against the boiler to leave enough room for the slow-mo, and then being able to go into backwards and forward gear. So do that both sides. Bit of patience. Tiny little grub screws, Allen keys. Do that both sides. We've done loosen them off. You can then slide them both sides up into back gear or reverse. Side. Now we can push that down or to the front of the locomotive, right up against the boiler, and then I did bring it back a tiny bit to allow a gap so it's not rubbing on the boiler. Okay, just adjusting that. Now I am voicing this video over about, I think it's been about 2 years since I shot this video, so I'm trying to remember how I did it. That's that done. So now I can make sure those drop link arms are in the right position in the expansion link, and then I can do them up. Takes a lot of patience working on roundhouse locomotives, tiny grub screws, especially if you have a factory built one and you've not worked on it before. Just take your time. But as I say, fitting this slomo is quite an easy job. You see there, I've removed my reach rod. That's a custom made one I made, but you should be able to just leave that on, standard one on for this job. You shouldn't have to remove it to adjust the expansion links and the weight bar. There you go, that's that job done. Next up is to loosen up the axle cranks and remove them, and grub screws on the wheels for the axles, so I'm doing them first. Finding the right Allen key. Again, you don't need to remove them completely, just loosen them up. So you slide on the axle freely. That's them. And go around to the doing the screws on the end of the axles. Now I've replaced these screws with Allen key ones, but your one will be a standard slot head screwdriver bit. Once that's removed, to the other side, and then you can take off the cranks. Now this could be a bit of a job. Sometimes it could be a tight fit on the axle, but just a bit of patience, a bit of wiggling, it should come off. See, a little tiny wiggle backwards and forwards should come off. You see there's a washer there, that's to take up the play, side play in my axles, because I built this locomotive, so depending on whether you built yours or had yours bought from the factory, you might have those washers, so just make a note of how they go back in. Yeah, another little wiggle, it should come off fine. Just let them hang there. Don't want to take the whole coupling and connecting rods apart, because it's far more tricky. Just leave them hanging. There's a thrust washer off. I did have one on the other side, I think, not in this video, but I went back and put the thrust washer back on the other side as well. You'll see me later on with two washers. I only put one back on. So there's the axle out, rear axle. Now you can get the new axle and the slomo. So put the slomo in, that just slots over the front axle, it doesn't push through. It's got a proper bearing in it, but it just like hangs on the front axle. And then there's the new axle with the milled slot for the grub screw. And then this is handy, having this guide spigot right through the slow-mo. You can put both wheels on, and then it's also got a tiny little machined end to them that fits in the end of the axle, It's quite good to guide it all through. This takes a bit of patience. Push a little bit of pressure, a little bit of wiggling backwards and forwards, making sure the slow-mo stays straight as you're pushing it through. You want to get as straight as possible. Makes it easier. I want to keep that the milled slot in the axle the correct orientation, so I'm just wiggling it backwards and forwards slightly, or keeping it in line for when I do the grub screw up. So there you go, speeded up the video. It's quite a lengthy process, but it's worth taking your time over. There we go, that's it through. Done. I'm going to start putting it all back together now. So this is the trickiest part, is getting these cranks back on the axle. Off camera, I find do up the screw as tight as possible by hand, not over forcing it, backing it off, doing it up tight again. You sort of work the cranks back onto the axle that way. Whereas if you just keep tightening, eventually those tiny little screws will shear off. You don't want that to happen. You want to press them on as much as you can with your fingers, and then use the screw to work it back on fully. You'll be able to tell if you haven't got them fully seated, because when you turn the wheels, the cranks will have a wobble to them where they're not sat right. Also, another thing to note is the quartering of the cranks. Just guide it, put them back on the same orientation as your front axle cranks. They'll only go back on one way anyway. You'll struggle to fit them if you got the quartering wrong. So yeah, there's me putting one washer on. I think later on I had to take it apart to put the other thrust washer back on. So there, I start putting the screw in, and then off camera, bit of a lengthy process, tightening up by hand, not too much, and then backing it off, tightening up. Eventually they do work themselves on and seat down properly. Put the other side on. It's a bit hard to do when you've got a camera sat in front of you. So I'm reaching around without knocking my camera. It's just a guide. It's not a full instructional video on how to install them. I always find watching someone else do the job that I'm going to be doing first makes it a lot easier than just going off of reading instructions. So here I am making sure the slow-mo's in centre. So you can do that by eye roughly, just how it looks going down the frame rails, because it's pretty important to get that straight so it doesn't bind. You can also turn the wheels, make sure they're moving freely. Once you've got the grub screws on the wheels done up, you can just turn it over, there's any tight spots, then you probably haven't got it quite straight. So this is me doing the grub screw up on the rear axle. It's important that that grub screw goes dead flush with the pulley there, with the boss on the pulley, because if it's still protruding, that means it's not sat down on that milled slot on the rear axle. So you might need to readjust that. But if you keep the orientation as you're pushing it through, then it should be fine. So that's now tight on the rear axle. Can put the cover back on. Another tiny little screw. This cover only fits on one way. It's only got one hole on it. Like I say, it's excellently machined. It's all super nice fitting. And they provide you with extra drive bands, because I don't know whether they're rubber or silicone, but when they do go, then you've got spares to replace them with. That's that. Now I can do the wheels back up again now on their axle. So now these got the the slomo has got slots so you can get an Allen key down there, and if you look here, with the wheels pushed right up against the slomo, that's 32mm. That's gauged right from my track. That's pushed right up. So that's using the Roundhouse gauge. So now I can do the grub screws up. Like I said, they got little notches cut out, so you can get an Allen key in there to do them up. One side. So we're nearly there. Next video I will do just a brief one of it that I did take of the locomotive on a rolling road when I first steamed up with the slow-mo fed. So I'll do that one next. That'll be uploaded a lot quicker than this one, that's for sure. Like I said, this one's been probably over 2 years since I filmed it. There you go, you can see the nice action on the slow-mo. I just spun the wheels a little bit and it continues momentum. It's got that flywheel effect. That's the idea behind the slow-mo. It gives you flywheel effect to carry over the stroke, the power strokes, so it helps with slow running, so it doesn't stall. Now you're left with these holes here, but you could always put the painted screws back in just to cover them up, which I did later on. And yeah, I believe that is it finished. So all I've got to do now is put the front buffer back on, but that's it with the installation. It's quite easy. Like I said, patience, take your time, read the instructions, and there you go.